This movie was phenomenal. So, what is going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be giving you guys a non spoiler review for Nobody, which just recently released. This movie was one that I was very excited for a while because I saw the trailer. I believe it released towards the end of 2020. And once I saw that trailer, I was sold. I thought looked phenomenal. I was really excited for a number of reasons, mainly because it was just looked like a really fun action movie. Plus, it was rated R, which a rated R action movie is always, to me, going to be more exciting than a PG-13 one because there's allowed to do a lot more with those type of movies. They're allowed to do a lot more gore. They're allowed to make the action feel more real and feel more like impactful because they don't hold back on what happens in these fight scenes. That was exciting. A big thing as well was Bob Odenkirk was the main character named Hutch, and he was kicking ass in the movie. And that's one of my favorite things about this movie is just the character of Hutch, Bob Odenkirk, and what he was able to do for this role. Apparently, he was training for like 18 months for this film, and it really shows because he does kick ass in this movie on numerous occasions. Like, it's insane. And I love these type of movies where you have a character that's not really the type of person you would think to be kicking ass, but they are kicking ass. A character or a movie that I would, relate to that is something like Kick-Ass, where you have Hit Girl in that film, and she's kicking ass. She's a 10-year-old girl. You wouldn't expect a 10-year-old girl to be kicking ass, but she is. That's one of the reasons I love Kick-Ass. This movie does kind of the same thing. You don't expect this guy to be kicking ass the way he is because he's like a 50-something-year-old. He's a father, he's got a family. He's a family man. But when you piss him off, he gets crazy, man. And the best part about it is that it's realistic. For the most part, I'm not going to sit here and act like everything in this movie was realistic because there's a lot of over-the-top action type things, which I have no problem with because it's a movie and that's part of the fun of the action movie is having some over-the-top things. But especially some of the earlier fight scenes, like the one on the bus, which if you guys have seen the trailer, you probably know what scene I'm talking about. Let me just say, that might be my favorite scene from the whole movie because, wow, that was good. But that scene especially, it's realistic because he's not just this unstoppable force like something like John Wick or like a superhero. No, he's not like that. He gets his ass kicked as well. He gets hit, he gets stabbed, he gets all sorts of cuts and bruises all over him throughout these fights, while he's also giving a lot of damage to the other people that he's fighting against. That is one of the best parts about this movie. It feels more real, it feels like there's more weight to it because the main character is getting his ass kicked alongside the people he's also, messing up. And again, he does a great job with it. The choreography and the fight scenes in this movie are phenomenal. Some of the best choreography I've seen in a while in an action movie. Like, really good. Like, Extraction from last year was one of my favorite movies from 2020. Extraction had really good fight scenes as well. I love that movie. But this movie takes, it just takes it to a whole nother level because of how gruesome and personal these fight scenes are. I mean, there's some just disgusting stuff that happens when it comes to some of these scenes, like people getting throats slashed, people getting things shoved in their eyes, people getting just gross stuff. But it's awesome. It's just my type of movie, that's the thing. And it's just so much fun to watch. So the premise of this movie is essentially that we have this character, Hutch, of course, played by Bob Odenkirk, and he's basically known to be, we kind of get some subtle hints towards this. We don't really know for sure what he is, but we get some subtle hints that he has a past of being some sort of he works with some bad people and he does bad things for them, essentially. So he's a pretty good fighter, he's good with guns. That's basically laid out there. It was clearly not legal stuff because he's not considered to be like an actual soldier, but he's alluded to being some sort of possibly an assassin of some sort, and that's clearly defined later on. But he ends up getting his house robbed. His house gets robbed, right? From just two people. It wasn't like a crazy robbery or anything. But this robbery sets him off because during the robbery, he had the ability to take out these robbers. He had the ability to maybe not kill them, but just at least stop them. But he lets it happen. He lets it happen for the sake of not wanting to hurt anyone because he's not trying to be a violent person anymore. He's trying to raise his family. He wants to be a good role model for his kids. That's basically the whole gist of it. And then people start giving him shit because they're like, bro, you should have done something. You could have done something. You could have stopped them. And he starts to realize that as well. So what sets him off though was actually her daughter's kitty cat bracelet was stolen within the robbery. That's what sets him off, and that happens in the trailer as well. You hear him yelling, "Give me the goddamn kitty cat bracelet!" For some reason, that line sold me in the movie. I don't know why. That line just like it sounded like ridiculously funny for an action movie like this, and it just works so well. And it goes into some crazy directions after this, and obviously, I don't want to be spoiling things because it's a non-spoiler review, but all I gotta say is everything gets better and better. Now, although I said that bus scene was my favorite scene in the movie, I can't deny that there are scenes past that are probably going to be better in most people's eyes just because of how crazier it gets as it goes along. Each fight scene gets bigger and bigger with more guns, with more people, with more blood, with more gore. And it's got a really awesome feel to it, I have to say. The villain in the film, his name is Yulan or something like that. I can't really pronounce it that well, but he was interesting enough. You'll kind of learn about his character when if you go see the film. I don't think he was like the best villain ever. Like, he didn't have that much to show for. He was mainly just there in order to be this obvious threat towards the main character. And I think it works. I think the actor did a pretty damn good job playing the role. And I enjoyed it. I gotta say, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole story going on with what was happening, with what he was doing to basically attack Hutch for specific reasons. And it plays out very nicely. Christopher Lloyd is also in this film, who of course is known mainly as Doc Brown from Back to the Future. This man has got to be like 80 or 90 years old, and he's kicking ass in this movie. He is kicking ass. I was like, what? I saw him in the movie and I was like, oh, that's awesome. But I did not think he'd be kicking ass in it. So yes, he brings a really insane, just funness to the movie, alongside already having Bob Odenkirk kicking ass. And yeah, it does not disappoint at all, I gotta say. I went into this film very excited, and I was not disappointed at all. There's some comedy in it as well, which I was really not expecting. But it was subtle comedy, though. It wasn't like in-your-face comedy like, oh, please laugh at our jokes like a lot of movies do. No, it was like, we're going to put this in here, see if people notice, because it's pretty damn funny. And it is. I laughed a decent amount of times in this movie. Some of the times I was just laughing because of how crazy the action scenes were, not necessarily because it was supposed to be funny. And they have a really good music choice as well. There's a lot of good songs that are in this movie. Even just the original soundtrack was actually pretty good. It was pretty intense. It had for some really fun moments. And like I said, with the other soundtrack, they had some 80s songs that were playing in it. Like in one car chase scene, there was this 80s song blasting. And Bob, I can't want to call him Bob Odenkirk, but his name's Hutch. Hutch was like getting down. He had like an Uzi. He was spraying the Uzi out the window, hitting the people in front of him. He was turning the car around, letting the car go that way, crashing into other people. It was like, wow. I don't know how they shot it this well, because they must have some of the best one of the best choreography teams out there. That's the one thing I need to praise for this film. It doesn't have like the greatest story ever. It's not really trying to have a massive, like, deep, story or anything. It's not really what this movie's trying to do. If you just want a fun action movie that's pretty short, you'll like it. Let me talk about a couple negatives, though, because there are some negatives I had for the film. Slight things that kind of hold it back from being perfect. First of all, I do think it was a little too short. The movie was actually only like an hour and a half. I was expecting it to be maybe like 2 hours, 10 minutes, but it was an hour and a half, which is pretty short for this type of an action movie. So I was like, when it ended, I was like, really? That's gonna end right like that? Now, should they have extended it for whatever reason? I mean, there's a number of ways they could have. They could have had it so the action scene at the end kind of went on a little bit longer. Maybe some other stuff happened to kind of, drag it out a little bit, which I don't think movies should forcefully drag stuff out. If they feel like it only has to be that long, that's fine. But for me personally, I prefer a bit of a longer film just to give us some more fun stuff for the ride, because it's like, you're on a roller coaster ride. You don't want it to end. You never want it to end. Same thing with this movie. I did not want it to end. I wanted more. I was like, I want to see it again, or I want more. I don't know. Will they do a sequel? I have no idea, but Doesn't matter because this movie on its own is still a damn fun film. And I think my only other criticism is that although the fight at the end was awesome, it was a little too over the top in some action scenes. Like I said, over the top is okay, but it gets to a point where it doesn't feel as like there's that much weight to the moment when you're like, you're pretty sure these characters aren't going to die because they're just unstoppable forces against a large army of people. But it's an action movie. I had fun with it. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And I think it would have been cooler if they incorporated the family a little bit more into the later half of the film, because they have a pretty important role in the first half, but it gets to a point where they kind of just go away and they're not really involved in the last half. And I think it would have added some more stakes to the tension of what was happening, to the story, if they were involved. I think Hutch's character would be way more willing to kill this army of these guys' men. He would be way more willing to do it. He'd probably be way more badass in the moments, because if he knows his family is in danger, in immediate danger. In this case, they're kind of just in like general danger because they're not in the area, but you know, he just wants to make sure they never come back to his house or anything like that. But if they were in immediate danger, like most of these action films do, I think it would have been a little more intense, and I think I would have enjoyed it just a little bit more, and possibly could have pushed this movie to getting like a 10 and a 10 rating for me. But personally, I'm going to give it like a 9.2 out of 10. Almost there, almost perfect, but not quite there just yet. Still, one of my favorite action movies in a long time, I gotta say. I mean, this movie rivals stuff like Die Hard, it rivals stuff like Taken, rivals a lot of action movies. Is it better than those ones? I don't know. Depends. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. I have to watch those again, maybe. But this was just such a treat. I definitely recommend it. Go watch it. This has been the Nobody review. Or not the Nobody. It's just called Nobody. Whatever. Go watch it. It's a great movie. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.